I have the pleasure of introducing our final keynote speaker of the day, and this one's a doozy. We're really excited. Carla Harris began her career with Morgan Stanley in mergers and acquisitions in 1987 after earning an MBA from Harvard Business School. Today, her list of roles in the firm is truly incredible. Vice Chairman of Global Wealth Management, Managing Director, Senior Client Advisor, and Chair of the Board of the Morgan Stanley Foundation. She also sits on 8 other boards. Carla has been named one of Fortune's 50 most powerful Black executives in corporate America, U.S. Banker's top 25 most powerful women in finance, and Woman of the Year in 2004 by Harvard Black Men's Forum. In August 2013, Carla was appointed by President Barack Obama to chair the National Women's Business Council. On top of these amazing accomplishments, Carla is a recorded singer whose album was a bestseller on Amazon. We might try and get her to do us a little song. And she's also the recent author of the newly released book, Expect to Win. Carla's passion lies in helping others, or as she says, we are blessed so that we can be a blessing to someone else. So please join me in thanking her for helping us today.
Thank you very much for that introduction, and good afternoon, WSA! It is sincerely an honor and a pleasure to be here. I can't tell you how excited I am, because I can't tell you how many times I sat in those seats. And the last time I was on this stage, I was doing the HBS play at that point called Top Pay. And I think I was singing, "Can't nobody bring me no bad news." So as you have heard, that was 26 and a half years ago. But I had an amazing time when I was here. And there is nothing that gives me more pleasure than being able to share a few of the things that I've learned since I left Harvard Business School that I think really make the difference between your surviving and, more importantly, thriving in the seat that you sit in or the seat that you aspire to sit in. And that's what I like to call Carla's pearls. As I like to tease my hard-earned and hard-learned pearls after being a woman on Wall Street for 26 and a half years. Yeah, that's an amen there, honey. I dare say that I have learned a few things about not only surviving, but more importantly, as I said, thriving. And that's really what I want to talk about. As you've heard, I've had the privilege of writing the book called Expect to Win. And the book debuted on CNBC on January 27, 2009. And since the book has been released, I've had the privilege of speaking all over the world about the pearls, but most often in Fortune 500 companies, MBA programs, college campuses, and other professional conferences. And over and over and over, people have asked me, why are you so honest about everything that happened in your career? And I will tell you why I was so honest. Because when I walked out of the lauded halls of Harvard undergrad right across the river in Harvard Business School, I embraced this whole concept of a meritocracy. Success was merely a function of how smart you were and how hard you worked. Yet, when I started my career, it didn't quite work out that way. You see, I thought I was pretty smart, magna cum laude, Harvard undergrad, second-year honors, Harvard Business School, pretty smart, huh? Yeah. I am from the South, so I knew there were very few of those boys in the Northeast that could outwork me. But yet, that combination did not equal maximizing my success. So I had to ask myself, what is missing in this success equation? And that's frankly what the pearls are all about. Being the person that I am, the anal person that I am, I went to the dictionary, and as I said, I looked up the word meritocracy. And I don't care whose dictionary you go to. If you look up the word meritocracy, you will see the word objective somewhere in that definition. Yet in all of our evaluative equations, there is a human element. And if there is a human element, by definition, it is subjective. It cannot be 100% meritocratic. So what are some of those other things that really make the difference, that really inform your success equation? And that's what the pearls are all about. Now, you have heard that I have been on the street for 26 and a half years, so WSA, I am a not old but seasoned deal-making gal. So I'd like to make a deal with you. I will tell you exactly how it is if you will agree to ask me whatever's on your mind when we get to Q&A. Do we have a deal? Yeah. All right, let's get started. The first pearl, and it is the most important thing that I learned after 2.5 decades on the street. So do not be fooled when you read the book and you see that it is chapter 4, because it is the most important thing that I learned, and that is perception is the co-pilot to reality. How people perceive you will directly impact how they deal with you. Yes, your success equation has something to do with the reality of how smart you are. It has something to do with the reality of how hard you work. But a very big component of your success equation is the perception that the marketplace has about you. What lens are they looking through when they are looking at you? And it's important that if you want to maximize your success in the seat that you're sitting in or the seat that you aspire to sit in, you must understand the adjectives that are associated with success for the seat that you're sitting in or the seat that you aspire to sit in. It's important that you understand these adjectives, because if you don't, you can work really hard, but you won't necessarily maximize your success in the seat that you're sitting in or the seat that you aspire to sit in, because you could be working in a way that is inconsistent with the way they are thinking about success. If you would like to manage a large group of people, but you are not perceived as being motivational, inspirational, or organized, it doesn't matter that you can. It doesn't even matter that you did. You won't get the opportunity to do that if you are not perceived as such. If you would like to manage a large P&L, but you are not perceived as being analytical, quantitative, or strategic, doesn't matter that you can. Doesn't even matter that you did. You won't get the opportunity to do that. Now, people say to me all the time, but wait a minute, Carla, I am who I am. I can't make anybody think about me in a certain way. Well, ladies, if you remember nothing else that I say this afternoon, remember that you can train people to think about you in the way that you want them to think about you. And how do you do that? You pick 3 adjectives that you would like people to use to describe you when you are not in the room. And why do I say when you're not in the room? It's because all of the important decisions about your career will be made when you are not in the room. Compensation decisions will be made when you're not in the room. New assignments will be given out when you're not in the room. And promotion decisions will be made when you are not in the room. So how do you want people to describe you when you're not in the room? Pick 3 adjectives that are absolutely consistent with who you really are, because I'm a big fan of the authenticity point. Nobody can be you the way that you can be you. It is your distinct competitive advantage. So pick 3 adjectives that are absolutely consistent with who you really are. However, pick 3 adjectives that are also valued in your organization. And if you don't know what's valued in your organization, you can go to the organization's website. There isn't an organization today that doesn't describe itself or its values on its website. And if they don't, think about what they told you when they hired you. Oh, Amanda, we hired you for the following 2 reasons. Oh, Adia, you beat out these 3 candidates for these 3 reasons. They told you then what they valued about you. So the trick is to continue to improve upon that which they value. The 3 adjectives that are consistent with who you really are, the 3 adjectives that are valued in your organization, where they intersect is how you must behave consistently if you want to train people to think about you in a certain way. Consistent behavior around those 3 adjectives. And the story that I love to tell, and many of you have heard me tell this story before, but every time I have the privilege and the honor to speak in front of a group of people, I tell this story because it was indeed my aha moment. 5 to 6 years into my career, I had a very senior managing director say to me, you know, you're smart, you work hard, but I don't think you're tough enough for this business. Now, my first reaction is, what is he smoking? You can call Carla Harris a lot of things, but ain't tough ain't one of them. But then I said, wait a minute. Suppose this guy is not pulling my leg. Suppose he really doesn't think that I'm tough enough for this business. And as you might imagine, ladies, the last thing that you want to be thought of as a woman and a woman on Wall Street is not tough. So after I got that feedback, I said, okay, I know what I'll do. For the next 90 days, I decided I would walk tough, talk tough, eat tough, drink tough, use tough in my language, because it's important that if you want to train people to think about you in a certain way, you must have consistent behavior around those 3 adjectives. And you must use this language in your environment, particularly when you are talking about yourself. So I had a reputation of being very good at critiquing management presentations, so much so that before we would take a company on the road for a multi-billion-dollar IPO or a multi-hundred-million-dollar common stock transaction, my colleagues would often ask me to come into the room and listen to that CEO's feedback and give that CEO some thoughts about how he or she could improve their presentation, particularly when it wasn't my deal. Over and over, I would get this request. So the next time someone asked me to do that, after I had gotten that feedback, I said, wait a minute, tell me a little bit about this CEO. Is this guy sensitive? Does he have a thin skin? I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings because you know I'm tough. And I kept using this language over and over and over to describe myself. And sure enough, it worked. In about 90 days, I had a team of people coming to see me. They didn't know I was behind them. The VP was beating up the poor associate. Do you have the backup analysis? Do you have the synergy analysis? We're going to see Carla Harris, and you know she's so tough. So they will start to think about you in that way if you have consistent behavior around those 3 adjectives. But ladies, it is imperative that you know the adjectives that are associated with success for the seat that you're sitting in or the seat that you aspire to sit in. If you are in finance and you are just starting out in your career, people better say that you are analytical, quantitative. If you're in a marketing role, they better say that you are creative, out-of-the-box thinker. If you're in a sales role, they better use words like commercial, relationship-oriented. You should always understand how they are thinking about success and what adjectives are associated with that seat. And oh, by the way, every day that you choose to exercise your power to go into your seat, you should know exactly what you're playing for. It should never be a mystery to you as to what it takes to get to the next pay level, what it takes to get to the next promotion level. And most people, particularly women, go into a situation and say, I'm going to just put my head down, I'm going to work really hard, and I know they'll realize that I'm working hard, that I'm loyal, and it'll all work out, and they will reward me for that. It does not work out that way. You should understand what you are playing for, because again, if you don't understand that, you can work hard, but you won't necessarily maximize your success in that particular seat. And if you're going to work for someone for the first time or go to a department for the first time, you should always ask the question, what does success look like? You need to know the macro definition of success. How does that house, that organization think about success? And the micro definition of success. How is your direct boss thinking about success? And the conversation goes like this: Jim, what needs to happen in order for you to say, I knocked the cover off the ball and the ball out of the park? If Jim says, Mary, you do the following 5 things. Now, Mary, you know exactly what you're playing for. You know how to maximize your success in that role. And the beauty of knowing exactly what you're playing for is that it will keep you motivated and inspired to deliver excellence every day. If you don't know what you're playing for, it's very easy for you to get distracted by what I like to call outside atmospheric disturbances, what's going on in the broader economy and what's going on in your internal political economy. But if Jim says to you, Mary, I don't know, you always do a good job. Just do what you always do. Mary, note to self, Houston, we have a problem. Because if Jim can't tell you what success looks like, you will never maximize your success in that role, because success is always shifting, and that will make your performance vulnerable to outside influences on Jim. So if Jim can't tell you what success looks like, you should say, Jim, you're not sure what success looks like? Give me 10 minutes. I got a pretty good idea of what I think an out-of-the-box performance looks like on this project. And you can tell me what you like and what you don't like. And after those 10 minutes, Mary, now you know exactly what you're playing for. You know how to maximize your success in that role. Perception is the co-pilot to reality. How people perceive you will directly impact how they deal with you. The second pearl that I want to leave you with is that you cannot do it alone. You cannot do it alone. You will need other people's relationships in order to maximize your success in the seat that you're sitting in or the seat that you aspire to sit in. And the three relationships that I write about is the advisor, the mentor, and the sponsor. And the reason that I wrote about that is that popular business press loves to say, you need a mentor, you need a mentor, you need a mentor. But they don't tell you what a good mentor is supposed to do for you, nor do they delineate the difference between the mentor and the sponsor. I've been talking about sponsorship publicly since 1990, and now people are doing research and writing books around sponsorship, and I could not be more pleased because it is indeed the critical relationship that you need to ascend in any organization. The advisor is the person that you can ask discreet questions of. Oh, Helen, I'm going to be working with Dan. Can you introduce me to him? I'd like to get to know him before we start this project. Oh, Martha, can you walk me through the weighted average cost of capital? I think you all do it differently than the way we did it at my old firm. Oh, Susan, I'm actually going to be doing my first client presentation. Can you walk me through the table of contents? I want to make sure I don't miss any of our competitive arguments. Those are discrete questions that you can ask of an advisor. And the profile of a good advisor is anybody in your environment that has the intellect and the experience to answer your discrete questions. A mentor, on the other hand, is the person that you can tell the good, the bad, and the ugly to. This is the person that you can share the intimate details of your career with, your fears, your concerns, your mistakes, your triumphs, your strategies. I'm in this box, but I'd like to be in this box. Who do I need to work and how do I get there? This is the person that you can trust with the intimate details of your career. So by definition, you have to choose somebody that knows you very well and that you trust. Don't just choose someone in the environment because you perceive that they have been successful and you say, wow, so-and-so's been doing this for 20 years. He or she is going to be my mentor. Because if they don't know you very well, they cannot be an outstanding mentor. They can be a terrific advisor. And oh, by the way, an advisory relationship can mature into a mentoring relationship. But if they don't know you very well, they cannot be a great mentor because a mentor's job is to give you tailored advice, tailored specifically to you and to your career aspirations. If I know Nadine and I know Mary and they both want to become managing directors and I'm a good mentor, I will give them two different strategies because they are two different women. And my job as a mentor is to give them tailored advice that they can successfully execute. Now, your mentor does not need to be within your organization, nor do they need to look like you, but they must understand your context. They must understand the context that you are working in order to give you advice that you can successfully execute. The only person that I've kept as a mentor for 2.5 decades is another senior woman in a completely different business. But boy, does she understand my context because she's a service provider to my industry. And I call her my script mentor. Whenever I'm about to have one of those conversations with the boys and tell them exactly how much I think I need to get paid and why I thought I have, added significant value to the firm and exactly how much I think I want to get in cash versus stock, I'll call her and tell her exactly what I'm about to say. And generally she will say, Carla, what outcome are you expecting with that conversation? Perhaps you should use these words, juxtaposition the sentences this way, because after all, ladies, it's not about whether or not you can use the King's English. It's about whether or not you say it in a way that your listener will hear it, embrace it, and act upon that which you want them to act upon. And I trust her, and I know that she has my best interest at heart. So when you're thinking about your mentor, you need to be 100% confident that this person has your best interest at heart. And when they're talking to you, there is one agenda item, and that's you. Now, as quiet as it's kept, you can survive a very long time in your career without a mentor. But you will not ascend in any organization without a sponsor. The sponsor is the most important of the three relationships. And as I said earlier, the mentor is the person you can tell the good, the bad, and the ugly to. The sponsor is not the person you can tell the good, the bad, and the ugly to. The sponsor is the person that you tell the good, and the good, because this is the person that is carrying your paper into the room. This is the person that behind closed doors will argue passionately on your behalf as to why you should get the great bonus, why you should get the promotion, why you should get the next great opportunity. Make no mistake, this is the person that is spending their valuable political and social capital on you. And there needs to be a very good reason why they are spending that capital on you. And you need to be able to articulate why you are worthy of their spending that capital on you. And if you can't articulate why you are worthy, I will tell you to retreat from looking for a sponsor until you can articulate your own value proposition. Every year, ladies, somebody's not going to get promoted. Every year, somebody's not going to get the great bonus. Do not take it personally. That is the law of the jungle. But the sponsor's job is to make sure that the person getting left behind that year is not you. So I went to someone the year that I was up for my big promotion, because that was the really big aha. And I knew exactly what I was playing for. I knew how the process worked, and I knew who had seats around the table. And as I started thinking about it, I said, wow, he's going to fight for him. She's going to fight for him. He's going to fight for her. And as I went around that table, I could not with confidence say who was going to pound the table on my behalf. And I said, uh-oh, my promotion to managing director is vulnerable. Not because I'm not senior enough, not because I haven't earned it, and not because there isn't great client feedback on me, but because I can't say beyond a shadow of a doubt who's going to spend some capital on me behind closed doors. So I went to someone who I knew had a seat at the decision-making table. The profile of a good sponsor is someone who has exposure to your work, someone who has a seat at the decision-making table, and someone who has the juice to get it done. And I said to him, it's really important that I get promoted this year. There's nothing else that I can show this organization about my readiness or my worthiness, but you and I both know that somebody needs to be behind closed doors pounding the table on my behalf. You know me, you know my work, you know the client feedback, and I think you would do a terrific job on my behalf. And the guy sort of hummed, but then he said yes. Why was that an important conversation for me to have? If he had told me no, he was going to have to tell me why. And that would have been important data for me from which to make a decision. Data is your friend. Data is your friend. Data is your friend. You can't fix it if you don't know that it's broken. So you should always create a safe place where someone's willing to give you the real deal data. But he said yes. So I somewhat trusted that he would get it done. Now, I am from the South, so I believe in insurance. So I went to someone who was a key influencer to other people around that table in case he got a little weak behind closed doors. He'd have an amen corner over there. But it's important, ladies, that you identify who's carrying your paper into the room. And if at any point you cannot answer the question, who's carrying my paper into the room, I will tell you to divert some of your energies from working so hard and invest in a sponsor relationship. And I don't often give advice that is gender specific, but let me put a comma right here. Women tend to trade on performance currency. We make sure that we do a great job, that it is beyond reproach, that it's tight, it's right. You can never criticize me on my deliverable because it's going to be right there. And performance currency is valuable. In the early days of your career, it will get you noticed. It might even attract a sponsor, and it will definitely get you promoted in the early days of your career when the evaluation process tends to be more objective than not. But as you get more senior, that is a subjective decision no matter how you cut it, and that is when you should be trading in relationship currency. You need to have relationship currency so that somebody feels comfortable saying yes behind closed doors if it's a tie, or to make sure that you even get considered. And we tend to overinvest in the performance currency as opposed to the relationship currency. So as you start to move past year 3 or 4, check yourself in your career that you are investing more in the relationships than you are in the performance, because you got that. You got the performance. You are who you are, so you will always deliver in a superb fashion. Otherwise, you would not be sitting in these seats. But you must be mindful to focus on the relationships. And the last pearl that I'm going to leave you with so that we can maximize our time on Q&A is if you consider yourself a leader in the 21st century, you must be comfortable taking risks. You must be comfortable taking risks. 15 years ago, you could create a competitive differential for yourself if you had information that other people didn't have. But today, information is a commodity. So the way that you can show that you are comfortable and that you are, in fact, leadership material is to show that you are comfortable taking risks. But in the last 5 years, what I've heard over and over and over is, oh, keep your head down, don't rock the boat. You know, 8% unemployment, now 6.6% unemployment. We're having our third restructuring, our second reduction in force. Just keep your head down. Well, HBS, WSA, I'm here to tell you that keeping your head down will not keep you from getting shot. So as I like to say, you might as well keep your head up so you can see the bullet coming. No. I say that in jest because what I'm really trying to tell you is that when we are in environments like we have been in for the last 5.5, 6 years, when everybody else is besieged with fear and everybody else is ducking, you have clear vision. You have clear vision to see the opportunity. This is exactly the kind of opportunity where you can markedly accelerate your success in any environment. It is not the time to keep your head down because the issue with keeping your head down is that you submerge your voice, and your voice is at the heart of your power. When you submerge your voice, you become irrelevant. When you become irrelevant, you put a big target on the front and a big target on the back. But when I ask myself why we don't take more risks, the only thing I can come up with is that we're scared. We're just scared. It's fear. And WSA, fear has no place in your success equation. Fear has no place in your success equation. Anytime you approach anything in your life, personally or professionally, from a position of fear, you will always underpenetrate that opportunity. And if you are shown a new opportunity and you're not sure whether or not you should take the risk, ask yourself 3 questions. Will the new thing give you skills and experiences that you would not get if you stayed in your current seat another 12 months? Second question, will the new thing expose you to people, relationships, and networks that you would not get if you stayed in your current seat another 12 months? And lastly, will the new thing put new branches on your personal decision tree of opportunity? I.e., you could go off and do some other things that you wouldn't have been able to do if you stayed in your current seat another 12 months. If the answer to all 3 of those questions is yes, you should absolutely take the risk. And I will close on the authenticity point. Nobody can be you the way that you can be you. It is your distinct competitive advantage. And anytime you're trying to be someone that you're not, you will create a competitive disadvantage for yourself. As quiet as it's kept, most people are not comfortable in their own skin. So when they see someone who is comfortable and confident in their own skin, they will gravitate towards you. They want some of that. When I first started in this business, I didn't want anybody to talk about the fact that I was a singer. I wanted to be known as a no-nonsense, hard-driving, analytical, quantitative investment banker. I'm not here to sing and dance, boys. Let's not get it twisted. Didn't want anybody to talk about that until I saw the client reaction. I'd go into a pitch, my colleagues would say, oh, this is Carla Harris, our capital markets banker. But what you really ought to know about Carla is that she's an amazing gospel singer. She's done 4 sold-out concerts at Carnegie Hall, 3 CDs, blah, blah, blah. And I'm rolling my eyes until I saw the reaction. Oh, you're a singer. Oh, I so admire people who can sing. And I personally love to sing, but my family will only let me sing in the shower. And maybe you can talk to my daughter about how she can integrate her love of the arts and music and blah, 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 and academics. There we were having a 15-minute meeting before the meeting. Are you with me, WSA? The meeting before the meeting. So when I sat down to pitch, they heard me with a different ear. They saw me through a different lens. Because Carla Harris, the singer, was allowed to be in the room with Carla Harris, the banker, I naturally differentiated myself from the other 5 bankers that would come in there and pitch that same IPO. When you bring your authentic self to the table, people will trust you. And trust is at the heart of any successful relationship. And if your success depends upon your ability to successfully penetrate relationships, the easiest way to do that is to bring your authentic self to the table. It is indeed a competitive advantage. Every class that you have had, every relationship that you have or you have had, and every experience that you have had has uniquely informed your ability to maximize your success in the seat that you're sitting in or the seat that you aspire to sit in. If you expect to win, you will. I thank you, and the floor is yours. Thank you. Thank you. Questions?
We have mics down here if anyone wants to come out with questions. Hi. Hi, thank you so much for coming. We're both very good. So I think a lot of times people earlier on in their career don't realize that the decisions that they're making at that stage are really going to translate all the way through to their end success goal. So I'm wondering if you could talk about one experience, one mistake, or one decision you made beginning of your career that is now still helping you be successful at this stage.
Oh, absolutely. And I had the privilege of speaking with a few of your colleagues a little bit earlier at lunch. So let me tell you about the mistake that I shared with them. And I'm using this one because it was a big mistake. It was an expensive mistake. Could have been a career-limiting mistake. But I learned a lot from it that I'd like to share with you. I was in the process of pricing one of the first transactions that I ever priced. And I wasn't really sure about what a naked short was. And just to give you a little primer, whenever you're pricing a transaction, you price, let's say, 4 million shares. But you don't just sell 4 million. You sell 4 million plus an additional 15% called a green shoe. So that if the stock goes up in the aftermarket, you then go to the company and say, we have a contractual arrangement for me to buy another 600,000 shares from you so that I can give it to the people that I sold it to the night before. Because on the night of pricing, you are technically short because the company only sells you 4 million, but I actually laid out and sold 4.6 million. Are you with me in terms of the short? Well, there's also something called a naked short, which means you can actually sell another 15% of the transaction if you think that the deal is going to be weak and it needs your buying support as the underwriter the next day. And that's called a naked short because that first 15%, I got a contractual arrangement with the company where they're going to sell me another 15. But that other 15, I have to go in the market and buy that. So I wasn't quite sure, and the guy next to me had priced a transaction the day before, and he had gone naked. So now it's my turn to price a deal, and I said to myself, he went naked, I'll go naked. So I went naked, not knowing what I was doing. Well, you only go naked when your deal is weak, when you don't have a lot of demand, and you think you're going to have to buy stock in the aftermarket to support that price. If your deal is way oversubscribed, you should never go naked, because the stock is going to go up, and you'll be buying all that stock back at increasing prices. Well, my deal was in really good shape. And the next day, right out of the gate, when that stock opened, that stock started going up. And there I was trying to buy all of those shares at increasingly higher prices. And the more I tried to buy, the more the stock was going up. So it ended up being pretty expensive. Well, there was a pretty senior guy who made a cause célèbre out of it. Oh, my gosh. I can't believe she did that. What was she thinking? Boy, what a disaster. All the words that you don't like. Disaster, shit show, all that stuff, right? All that stuff. Blah, 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 blah. Just making a big deal out of it. That was the first day. Second day, what was she thinking? What a colossal mistake. Sure did cost the firm a lot of money. Blah, 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 blah. Making a big deal out of it. So by the third day, I took him into the room, and I said, look, I got to tell you, that was a really bad mistake that I made. Boy, I tell you, it was a big mistake. I've never made a mistake like that before, and frankly, I didn't understand what a naked short was, but I got it now. I got naked, clothed, half clothed. I got all of that. I got it now. I really understand that. But you know, I just want to make sure that you know that I made a mistake, because you've been talking about this a lot, and I know you have my best interest at heart. So I just want to make sure you understand that when I make a mistake, it is the exception and not the rule. And we don't have to talk about this anymore, right? Right? And that was the last I heard of it. Now, what did I learn? First of all, if you don't know something, ask somebody. There's no shame in that game. And often we don't want to reveal ourselves or expose ourselves. It's one question. Ask somebody if you don't know. Second thing, if you make a mistake, own it. Don't let anybody else tell your story. because nobody can tell your story the way that you can tell your story. So what I should have done was, oh my goodness, I can't believe, clearly I didn't understand what a naked was, but I understand what a naked is now. I'll never do that. This was expensive. I know it's going to cost me some money. I should have gone through all of that myself and made a big deal out of it myself in front of anybody who would listen. And the third thing is, if you find a bully, call him out. Because once you say, I see you, all of his or her power goes away. That's what I learned that I'm still using today. Other questions? Hi.
My colleagues and I come from a really small liberal arts college whose motto is creative thought matters. And so we all found the fact that you can balance art and business so inspiring. And I guess my first part of my question is, how do you balance that? Does one of them tend to infringe upon the other or make the other difficult? And what's the other part of my question? Maybe what do they help enhance each other and enhance your performance in either one of those?
Absolutely. And I will tell you that they all fit together. And I'm a big fan, and to answer your question, how do I handle it? In chapter 9 of the book, I talk about balance, because popular business press loves to say work-life balance, but what they're really writing about is work-family balance. And what I think is important is work-life. And I define balance as those things that bring you joy, real joy. And I believe you should have some of that in your day every day, because that's what keeps the balance. Work won't always go well. But if you have something else in your day that's going to make you smile, that's going to make you feel good, then you will then have balance. And for me, giving back is a big deal, because I am under no illusion. I did not get here by myself. I am standing on somebody else's shoulders, so I have to make my shoulders available for somebody else to stand on. So I do a lot philanthropically. And with the singing, that also brings me great joy. So there are a lot of days, instead of having lunch with a colleague or something, I may take a voice lesson for an hour. And I got to tell you, wailing for a whole hour changes your perspective on the afternoon. But you can balance it by, and I do that by being maniacal also about my calendar. I make sure that I do it on purpose and intently. So if I care about it, I put it in the calendar and it gets done. And I also make sure that the two, as I said earlier, I didn't want to mix the two. But then I realized that it was part of my competitive advantage that I have something that somebody else doesn't have. And, you know, people like to talk to people who are singers, and you'd be surprised where it works. So let me tell you a quick story. 2006, we were pitching for the big IPO, the Burger King IPO. Everybody wanted that deal because it was a large IPO. There hadn't been a good QSR deal in a long time, and it was owned by 3 financial sponsors. So we're down in Miami. It's our turn to pitch. I'm over in the corner with the CEO, and I said, hey, John, you know, you guys going to bring back the Have It Your Way jingle? You know, he said, funny you should ask, Carla, because that was one of the most successful jingles in Burger King's history. Our research tells us that. I said, oh, cool. Are you going to bring back both verses of the song? And he said, Carla, there was only one verse to that jingle. I said, John, I'm the original hamburger queen. Trust me. There was 2 verses to that. He said, Carla, there was one. So I'm in the corner. I said, hold the pickle, hold the lettuce, special orders, don't upset us. All we ask that you let us serve it your way. But if you want some special thing, it won't take long for us to swing it when you come to Burger King and have it your way. He said, now, I'd like to tell you that's why Morgan Stanley won lead left on that deal, but no, I won't go that far. But I will tell you that it created a proprietary relationship, because long after that deal was over, he'd call me and say, listen, this is what we're going to say to the street. It's quarterly announcement. I'd like to get your thoughts on what you think the street will, how the street will react, what the stock price will impact, because I trust you, blah, 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 because I had the courage to bring the authentic Carla to the table. So they absolutely are integrated. And when you're trying to keep them at bay, you're using valuable intellectual capacity that you could use to actually have that quick twitch response, or to really hear what your client means yet is not saying. Okay.
So you're such a confident and articulate and expressive, hilarious woman, which is why I've been trying to change my life a little bit. So my question is, have you ever been asked to change yourself and to change your personality to tone it down in order to approach a client or a sale or whatever the case may be? And if so, how do you do that and still maintain authenticity to yourself and sleep at night?
Yes, okay. The first thing is, no, I have never been asked to tone it down. And I think part of being a performer is that I'm in tune to my audience. right? So I'm very sensitive, and I tend to study and listen first so I can get a feel for, you know, how much of Carla they're going to be able to take, right? So, right, so I'm very sensitive to that. And you have to remember, you're not being inauthentic if you show a different side of yourself. All of us are multidimensional. You're not just one way, right? So if you choose to show me polka dot pants today, but tomorrow you choose to show me a gray blazer, and the next day you show me black, it's all you, right? It just depends on what you choose to let me see that day, right? And nothing about that is inauthentic. It's your entire outfit, right? So you have to remember that being inauthentic is really being something that you are absolutely not. But growing into, you know, a new skill, or, you know, improving yourself, and maybe you were one way before and now you're another way, that could still authentically be you. But no one has ever asked me to be somebody different, just in order to make it. And I'm not sure, and frankly, to be honest with you, it's one of the reasons that I went to work where I went to work. And I shared this with a few of your classmates, because after I had received all my offers, and, you know, you go down and you have sell days with different firms, and a number of other firms, I felt like this the whole time. You know, and as a woman, you can successfully get along in any environment because we are consciously and unconsciously socialized to do so. So we really can make it in almost any environment. But the trick is, you're going to be long-term successful where you can largely be who you really are, because at some point that face is coming off. So one of the reasons I chose to go where I went was because I felt like I could be Carla. Because when I went for that full day, we talked about everything from teenage pregnancy to AIDS to what the Fed was going to do. I never felt like this. And I remembered, even in my 20-some-year-old mind, that was important to me, because it said there are a number of different equations that equal success. Surely there's one for me. Right? Yes, ma'am. Well, we got to give her a hand, because she said I'm a singer. Yes, yes, yes. Uh-huh.
Or like a marketing move versus confidence in this is who I am.
Uh-huh.
So how do you balance, how do you get the word out to be like, this is me, this is who I am?
Right, right.
Without somebody rolling their eyes at you and saying, oh, here she goes again, now she's getting to speak. Just like, what goes through my head when I talk to you?
Right. Well, first of all, if you tell me you are clairvoyant, then I will stand aside. But if you're not clairvoyant, how can you tell me what somebody else is thinking? Right? So you don't know what they're thinking about you. So don't take on that as if you know what they're thinking necessarily. If you want to tell somebody that you're a singer, you look for an appropriate place in the conversation. Like you interject anything else in your conversation, you can actually put that out there. Or if you want to know about a person, or you want them to know that you're a singer, you can start first with, so what else do you do besides study and do these cases? And somebody else said, oh, I like to do this, you like to do that. And you say, oh, okay, well, I like to sing. And they said, really, you like to sing? What do you like to sing? And there you go. Right? There's your script. That's all you have to do. And you can find other ways in the conversation actually to work that in. Yep, that's all you have to do. But don't be preoccupied and worried about what other people are thinking. You don't know what they're thinking. And I'm glad you brought that up, because we tend to do that a lot as women in meetings. You know, we don't say what we want to say, or we're thinking about what somebody's going to think about what we say. And, you know, you say a comment and Bob looks like this and you think, oh my gosh, why did I say that? Maybe that was a stupid comment. You know, and Bob might have had gas. You don't know what he was thinking. Right? But we take on all of that, right? Don't do it. Don't do it. Keep your eye on the prize, your foot on the gas, stay in your lane and hit it, girl. Okay?